Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second and final round of the 2022 Throwdown the Mountain 10 presented by Discraft and Sun King Disc. Terry Miller, again, joined alongside Nate Perkins. And Nate, why is this the final round? What's going on?
Yeah, so Saturday's round was canceled due to lightning. So here we are on Sunday. We've got an awesome card for you guys. We're looking at hole one here, shortened hole one. It's playing 230, slightly uphill. The green's pretty small. You can't push this very long or too far right. Pretty steep drop off behind the bucket.
And asking if we're ready, the five-time world champ Paul McBeth. He's won this event 3 times before in the previous 9 iterations. Actually, only 8 for the MPO side. Or 20 was COVID. Here's McBeth.
Yeah, it's a short 230.
And you can see just how quick it drops off behind the pin there. He went a little long with that Luna.
Calvin Heimburg opting for the forehand. I feel like that's a more popular play.
I think so, and we spoke about this during round one, that Paul is still dealing with an injury. I believe it's his elbow. And he is doing everything he can to not throw any forehands.
Yeah, it's not quite as drastic as what we've seen, for instance, from, say, Eagle McMahon. It's just whenever he can, he's trying to avoid it.
So Calvin actually clubbed up to a Draco, and then Thomas is throwing the distortion right there.
And Alex Russell on the card.
And Alex is also clubbing up. He's throwing a max here. A little hot.
It does hang up thanks to that tree, though. So unlike McBeth, who went all the way down the hillside, and he's really struggling. You're going to see a theme today in that because things are so wet due to the rain, getting footing can be a challenge, and I think he had both branches and footing to contend with there. Calvin to cut the lead in half. Too much juice.
Surprising. You would almost bet money that both of them wouldn't miss hole one.
Yeah, definitely one of the easier holes on the course.
Now, Alex Russell actually spent some time in Florida this offseason. It's becoming like a second home to him. He's originally from the state of Washington, so he's literally on the other side of the country.
Seems to be a popular collection point these days. People heading over to Florida, feel like there, North Carolina, Arizona. I mean, obviously, plenty of sunshine and lots of golf in those areas, so it makes sense. But Florida becoming a hotbed for people to migrate to. And we get one of our par 4s on the day.
Yeah, hole 2 is a sweet one. We've got a small gap off the tee. It's 150 feet to this pasture, and you really want to hyzer off to the left to give yourself a better angle. Really tough green to access, and we've actually moved the pin about 30 feet shorter to avoid that collection of water.
The one that we might have seen you digging around in on the day before. So that is literally the only course change after 12 or 14 hours of rain.
So Thomas hits the gap. He might have thought he was a little inside, but that's perfect. You really want to see your disc just disappear around the corner. If you throw this one too straight, you can really pinch your angle off.
A real quick glimpse at the basket up there, as you said, moved a little bit shorter. That casual water happens to be just about a perfect place to land, too. We're going to find Alex Shorten on the left side, not getting all the way through the gap. And that got a little hung up.
That's That's the Draco from Calvin. And you said it, Terry. That's really an ideal landing zone.
You know, without the water would be great, but the actual positioning is exactly where you do want to be. That is considered casual.
Okay, so Alex is just pitching this one up. And I'm very curious to see what Paul goes to. Normally he would go with a big forehand around that tallest pine, but he might try something really skinny on the back door.
And it kind of fights through to being just a little bit short. He'll be somewhat obstructed. So Calvin opting to actually back up due to the casual relief.
Oh, and he peers that gap. What a shot.
And talk about a perfect drive.
Yeah, he's squared up with the gap here. Got less than 250 in.
I'll still give him a look, but that feels like a missed opportunity in terms of approach shots. Alex with his third. And that's going to leave him 18 feet short or so uphill.
Wow.
Yeah, and
Slow start.
For the viewers' behalf, I cut a good 15 seconds out of him contemplating which side of that tough to even stand in. So he was really struggling with his footwork there, trying to decipher what was the best way to go about it. And makes up for the lackluster approach. And knowing par was the best you could really scrape up after that drive, Alex did everything perfectly to make up for it. Here's Heimburg.
Kind of scared me right there. Just over the rim, but it's in, and he's just one back. Thomas and Calvin both just one back now.
Certainly making it interesting as we're heading over to hole 3. Little tunnel off the top. Then what else do they have to do?
Yeah, well, you got that barbed wire fence on your right. Doesn't really come into play if you hit the gap. Another par 4 out here that you really, it's one specific spot. You want to land right on this road, and then you have a tricky kind of uphill, low ceiling approach with another fence on the right.
I feel like the play here is to throw it too hard rather than too soft. Too soft can get you into trouble. Too hard is just maybe going to put you on the back side of the wall at worst.
Yep. Oh, and that's a not a great kick. Like you said, the back wall is better than the inside of that corner. And Calvin doesn't like it, says it's inside, and it was. Gets a pretty good kick, actually. He might have an angle from there.
That kick's left the 30 feet instead of right 30 feet, and he's for sure at best taking a 4. So he might be able to recover from there.
Yeah, it's pretty ideal from A. Russ.
McBeth making a similar mistake, short, and when you're pinched off on that side, then you try and get a little greedy, and next thing you know, you're throwing out of bounds. So we'll see what McBeth can do with that, if anything. This is actually pretty good position for a low power thrower like Heimburg.
Oh, if that crests the hill, and it does. Look at this. Wow. That's exceptional. It's hard to really tell on camera just how steep that hill is.
Yeah, and as McBeth is lining up his shot, he's noticing that along the fence line on the right side on the top of the hill, there's just a ton of spectators, and he's certainly worried that any errant shot would clip some of them. So they kept asking everybody, push back more.
No way. In the circle?
Right on the edge, and that's as good of a shot as you could ask for from where he was. A little short of McBeth's, but still makeable putt.
Yeah, so out here at the Grand Canyon Disc Golf Course, they require you to wear some sort of identification, and that's what they gave us. Little wristband with smiley faces.
I had balloons.
You had balloons?
Yeah, everybody
Nice.
had a little different one, and not only was I showing the wristband, but also just that awkward footing in the run-up that is required on that hillside. You know, he had the best shot, but still had goofy footing just because it's a little bit rocky there, and he executed it perfectly. Great control. Here's Thomas Gilbert for birdie.
Good looking stroke, just a little strong. And this is huge for Paul to be out of position. I mean, he's parred the first two. That was a big time shot. You pars on the first three, you start to lose a little bit of that momentum.
Especially after getting the first three in round one. He had birdied all of them.
No way.
And you hear him second guessing if he should have just maybe straddled it. Again, something with the footing, a little bit awkward for him, and results in the par. And here's Heimburg for a share of the lead. Just like that, 3 holes in, he erases the 2-stroke deficit. And look at this 3-man race at the moment, along with Thomas Gilbert. Just awkward enough. I feel like that's my personal mantra as well. It's awkward enough. Get it done. Alex Russell taps in. Great birdie.
Yeah,
He's obviously right there in the thick of it as well. But you got to wonder about that momentum you speak of. You know, now you're moving to hole 4 where birdies are incredibly rare. In fact, bogeys are far more popular. As I'm engulfed by the anxious fans that are ready to go.
I'm Garrett Girthy. People know me as Double G. I've been making Double G craft jerky since I was 16 years old.
I'm always a snacker, so about halfway through, I always find myself reaching for that bag of Double G jerky.
My favorite has got to be the garlic lover's dream. You just can't go wrong with garlic and beef jerky.
That middle of the round, you get into that slump. I'm going to reach for that Double G craft jerky to help me finish strong.
So most of you can't throw like Double G, but if you get his craft jerky, you can certainly eat like him. Go out and get some Double G craft jerky.
You can find Double G craft jerky at doublegjerky.com.
All right, hole 4, 406 feet. One of the tougher par 3s on the course, if not the most difficult one. Super low ceiling. And a guarded green. The hill normally has some skips, but it's pretty muddy. Calvin going Halo Destroyer here.
And you gotta love that. I mean, that is almost as good as you could possibly ask for on this tee shot. Just a matter of, can you convert on the birdie?
Alex pulls that leopard just a little bit.
All things considered, not too bad of a placement, though. At least he could make the recovery.
Kind of the danger of this hole is the early gap. The late gap prevents a lot of birdies, but the early gap will lead to a bogey quick. Wow. That's going to be a 45-footer for birdie.
And we saw the trouble that Wiggins got into on hole 1. This is actually where he was throwing his third from. Almost the exact same position. Just pinched off with not a lot of options, and forehand can certainly bring the OB into play if it hyzers out to the right.
This approach is pretty tricky. Low ceiling, and you're climbing up the hill, and you've got maybe a 15, 20-foot gap to hit on the right.
Need a little bit more power to it. This is Thomas throwing his third shot.
I believe that was also the distortion. Have Jones's mid-range from Prodigy.
Now McBeth with an opportunity to finally get something going. We haven't seen any birdies in the division up into this point.
Again, yeah, that footing is everything. It's just hard to get your legs involved when they're slipping out from underneath you.
And Heimburg has almost an identical putt.
That was for the outright lead. And this to save par from a similar distance. I'm going to call it 42 feet, slightly uphill.
So hole 4, we'll say it's not playing very friendly. This is for bogey. Give the man the hand. Not supposed to have to work that hard for a bogey, but Alex will tap in for his bogey as well, so the group will play it 2 over. And still knotted up at the top. Gilbert falls 1 more behind them. Alex still sits at 8 under.
All right, hole 5. Pretty downhill shot, blind, right to left. This one is more of a stall shot than it is just a straight hyzer. You really need it to drift back into the left more than you think. A lot of players are going straighter, even more understable. Some players are still going with a pretty stable disc like Calvin, but we're going to see Paul throw kind of a flippier fairway to kind of get it to drift back into the left.
Heimburg, always the gentleman, making sure I'm ready to go, even though I was just standing there waiting on him. That's a great shot.
Yeah.
Should be good.
And as we just heard Calvin say, you actually have no idea genuinely how good the shot is. It's 100% blind.
I was hoping for a
Yep.
ooh. I didn't want just a chair. I wanted an ooh.
McBeth sounds like he was getting greedy, hoping for an ace run rather than just a park job. Why don't you worry about a birdie first, McBeth? Also within makeable range. We got 3 on the dance floor, or at least near it.
Ooh, and that just catches that inside corner.
Yeah, and that's going to be up on the hillside and really a world of hurt.
Oh,
And
wow.
He's in there.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't really think that this is possible off the tee. You're thinking how close can you get to the pin, and like you said in round 1, if you do not make this corner, it brings the bogey into play.
I think I had Kelvin whispering in my ear exactly what Thomas was going to be doing, if you heard the chatter there. And he's struggling to find a lane to get out anywhere. And finally pitches out, and he doesn't even know just how good that is. There's Gilbert to save his par.
That's going to be back-to-back bogeys for Thomas.
And putting himself on the board. First birdie of the day for McBeth. Going to pull out 1 in front of Heimburg for the moment. Question is, can Heimburg answer? It's about the same distance we saw him miss from on hole 1. And boy, oh boy, have things changed up here in the first 5 holes. Thomas falls back to even for the round. He's now officially 4 behind McBeth and Heimburg, who are all knotted up at 13. And that's McBeth's first birdie of the round. Meanwhile, Heimburg's already got 3 of them.
All right, hole 6, par 4, 694, another blind hyzer. It's tough to get a read on this fairway. You can easily push it too straight and get in that sawgrass, and also at the same time not make the corner if you don't give it enough pace. And then you're left with like 250 to 300 into the pin. A lot of the times it's a blind approach.
Serious height to that.
No doubt. Perfect.
Compare this blind shot to the previous blind shot on 5. Do you feel like similar power, a lot more power? You have a little bit more room to work here?
It's actually very similar. I think you can benefit from being further left on hole 6 versus hole 5, but very similar. And you can see Paul's not biting off any distance on this one. He's just going Captain's Raptor, and
He's a good 75 feet behind
yeah.
Heimburg, but seems like his positioning is just fine nonetheless. Alex doesn't like it.
That's in danger of going too straight. That's not bad. He's got less room to work with, but with his forehand, should be a good lie.
And that pushes tight to the left side. Sometimes the crowd reaction tells us everything, doesn't it?
It really does, and we've got a healthy gallery today. At least a couple hundred people. Paul going Luna again into the green here, and just perfection.
Yeah, practically hit copy and paste from round 1.
Really?
Same landing zone, same Luna, same 15-footer.
Yep.
And you mentioned it. He's got the forehand here.
Beat that pine. Yeah, that one just really. That is a very common result right there. That last pine tree is the true guardian of that green.
So a ton of distance actually covered here. This gives him a relatively short approach. Obstructed, but short.
Beautiful line from Thomas, and there's that distortion again.
And I'll say what I said yesterday. There is no reason to be short on this. Give this, the long, powerful throw. You've got that great bowl and that backdrop, the back wall to throw into if you need it.
And here's Calvin throwing his new Toro.
He's up there on the upper plateau. Alex has a look. Man, and he's blessed to have that much of a look, actually, after, that roll could have went anywhere. We've seen some pretty nasty rollaways with the sawgrass in that area. Gilbert for birdie. Not necessarily a confidence booster, but still a birdie, right? He's trying to fight back after the bogeys on both 4 and 5. Heimburg with an opportunity to take the outright lead for the time being. Six averaged 3.91, so just a little bit below par. Although our cards both days have made it look very easy. 3 birdies here and the par by Russell. And we're going to walk up the hill to hole number 7.
337, pretty much dead straight. Little bit of a ceiling off the tee here. This green is pretty small. If you're 20, 25 deep, you likely have no putt. So you have to have some speed control off the tee. A lot of people like to play a couple skips. Circle 2's edge short, skip up into that hillside on the left.
Wow, that's going to be really bad.
Just
early.
Yeah,
just early
pulled
out of the
right in
hand.
there.
Forward. Forward.
McBeth claiming a little we'll say, a little soft or a little too much hyzer on it, trying to get
Yeah.
it to push forward, actually.
Yeah, that was just too much angle. He wanted it flat out of his hand.
Oh, wow. Four.
That needs to hit something. There is OB over there.
And it eventually does stay in bounds. Rewind 5 years ago, and he'd be parked for a pin that used to play to that area. But
Okay.
it brought the out of bounds in far too much, and it created a lot of backups, and it also kind of brought one's tee into play. So that's why we're playing to this position, which I really do like. But as you said, very, very small protected green with high roll-away potentials.
Okay, down low. Skipper. My favorite.
And in all the years, I can promise you, Kelvin has not practiced from this area. It's just, in all the years I've even filmed, this is not a spot you see players make the mistake and get over here to the short left side and be this obstructed. So
He doesn't have much of a lever here. He's got to generate a bunch of spin on this eagle with his forearm and wrist.
he gets it to punch out, and that's going to be an opportunity, a long one, but at least an opportunity to save the par.
Been a tough run for Alex thus far. Where are we, Terry?
We are way down and right. We're past the pin, and he's just trying to find a tiny alley
Wow.
that you couldn't seriously have thrown a better shot. That was the best recovery you could ask for. And these you have to be careful with, because if this hits anything on the ground, it's going to pop up and roll, possibly to even where Thomas just was. I've seen plenty of those throughout the years. McBeth doesn't like his footing. Cockroach? Was that what was on the ground, maybe? I don't know. He seemed frustrated.
This is big right here.
At least 40, maybe 45 feet.
Oh, and it did get there. That's a big time up and down from Calvin from a really bad position. Right after Paul misses his birdie bid.
And you said it at the beginning. This green is super tough. You see the slip there, but he's 10, maybe 12 feet from the pin and very perplexed.
You should clip these together, Terry, and call it Slide Down the Mountain.
Spoiler, there might be a few other slides we're going to see throughout the day too, I think.
Look at this.
And right now, Paul's the type, he knows, like, hey, I have to throw. I've spent, enough time. He's clearly not known as a slow player, but you have an internal clock where you're thinking, hey, man, I need to make a decision. So who would have thought that? Pars all around when it was all said and done on this hole. And some incredible recoveries. We head over to hole 8.
This is one of the nicer par 3s on the property. You're teeing off pretty much eye level with the basket, but you're headed downhill and then back up this hill. Very reachable, but takes an exceptional shot. For the right-hand backhand, we're going to see some towering anhyzers. There's this one big pine tree in the middle that really likes to collect the discs. If you turn this one too far to the right, it can bring the bogey into play. Ah, there's that pine tree. But rolls out to the middle of the fairway, and it'll be a pretty routine approach from there.
Quick side note to that green disc. That's a Thunderbird that Paul doesn't like that he ultimately gave to Kelvin, that Kelvin's been throwing for a while now.
No way. That's
of
cool.
course, Paul's move sponsorships, but
what
a drive.
shot. That's Paul's flippy Zeus, and that was perfect.
And maybe most importantly, making a correction from what he did in round one, where we saw him way off to the left side. He actually took a bogey here in round one, so that is a great correction.
That's holding nice. What a shot. And that didn't even really have to flex back too much. I mean, he had that on just the one angle.
Looked good the whole way. Park job for Thomas Gilbert. Right now, advantage McBeth as Heimburg's at the bottom of the hill. McBeth's parked. So hole 8, not entirely open, but also not blind. So the question I have for you guys is, do you care about playing blind holes? Do you like not knowing where it is so that you have to really rely on your instincts, or do you have to see where the basket is? Put that in the comments to win some stuff.
That was close.
Again, backstop, right?
Yeah.
You know, you love to see that really smart play by Heimburg thinking, hey, I can be aggressive with this. Alex can give this a bid for a long birdie.
I think that was the same disc that Calvin tried to throw in at Texas State's when he saw that Rick was there for the birdie, tried to throw it in, came up short.
Not a lot of birdies found on hole 8, but McBeth is one of them. And even better, absolute park job by Gilbert. Only a half dozen or so birdies on the day, and you just saw 2 of them. Big shout out to all my Patreon subscribers and supporters. That's what makes this coverage possible. Here we are on 9.
Another low ceiling straight shot with some early gaps. Very early gap, a middle gap, and then this late gap right here. Basket up on a hill.
Kicked down into the right just a little bit from McBeth. Now has the 1-stroke advantage. Been a little bit of a roller coaster already.
Yeah, this has been a very unpredictable front 9 so far. That is roped. Find some stability.
I just hit that. You hit the stump thing? I think I did.
That's unfortunate.
As you said, that was right on line.
Yeah,
just
that was
needed
a
a
rope.
little bit of a hookup, and he would have been putting, probably even from past the basket.
This hole sets up pretty well for Calvin and his eagle.
Tree down to the right side. Not too punishing over there. You have a lot of little alleys that you can find. The left side has a lot of low-hanging branches that make it tougher.
Yeah, good shot, Alex. There you go. 20 feet behind the players, please. 20 feet.
Middle of the fairway for Alex. Still short, though.
Yeah, he threw it kind of conservative off the tee. Wasn't really in attack mode.
Falling for the long throw in. This does play as the third most difficult hole on the course, so picking up a par isn't the worst thing. You just don't want to give any of the bogeys out. And just that, a stress-free par is going to gain you strokes on the field, actually. Here's Gilbert for a look at birdie. McBeth trying to close out his front nine. Easy comeback par. And Nate, as they prep for their tap-ins, I got to say thank you so much for joining. It's always a pleasure to have you on the mic. They should, follow you on Instagram, YouTubes, the Facebooks?
Yeah, Perks of Disc Golf on Instagram and YouTube. Firing up that YouTube channel. I've been filming some practice rounds with homies on the tour.
Well, everybody loves hearing from you. That's going to close out our front nine. Like, share, subscribe, do all the YouTube things. Make sure you leave a comment. We got Double G jerky and some discs to give away. Love you guys, and we'll see you for the exciting conclusion of round number 2, the final round at Throwdown the Mountain 10.